I'm Richard Weaver, and I'm here today with Edgar Willis. Edgar was formerly the chairman of the department at the University of Michigan, chairman of the speech department. And after he retired from the university, he gave speeches for the Alumni Association, the University of Michigan Alumni Association. And one of his favorite topics was humor. So today I thought, he's 99 years old, I thought this would be a good time to talk about not just his lecturing, but about his book, How to Be Funny on Purpose, Creating and Consuming Humor. So I thought we'd talk a little bit first about the history and the background, some of the insights about how this book came to be. And my first question is just that. How did you decide to write a book on humor?
Well, I had been lecturing for a number of years around the world about humor. It was stimulated by the book The Sense of Humor by Max Eastman, and he started me thinking about it, and I gave my first lecture on humor actually a long time ago.
When was that?
In 1936, before I was even thinking of becoming a professor.
Do you remember where you were? Or?
No, not particularly. But anyway, I gave a talk in Ann Arbor locally, and or no, it was actually Detroit. I was living in Detroit at that time, and it seemed to be well received. So when I retired, and the Alumni Association asked me if I would give lectures for the Alumni Association, I said yes, and that was one of the main topic that I picked.
And you picked it because?
Because it went over well with audiences.
Okay.
It was highly appreciated by audiences. I remember I gave one in Boston at the Harvard Club, and we had 75 alumni there.
Oh my goodness.
And they were of varying ages, and it was one of those times when the audience really responded to the jokes. And one of the main things this book has is a lot of jokes.
Okay.
And
okay.
I gave the book to a man who was my favorite doctor, and he told me that before he went to bed, he would read a couple or three jokes to make him feel good, so he could go to bed happy.
Okay, well, let's get to the transition then between the writing of the lectures and the giving of the lectures and the actual writing of the book itself. How did this come to be?
Well, I had all of this information that I had in notes, actually, that I delivered my lectures from. I spoke always ad lib. I didn't read any lectures, and it was very easy. It was the easiest book to write that I've written about 8 books, and most of them college textbooks for use in college classes. But this by far was the easiest. It just came because I had lectured on it. I had all of the information at my fingertips.
So was this then the first book designed for the general public?
Let me think. I think probably it was. Yeah, I think probably it was.
What was your purpose in writing the book? In other words, what was your intended audience for this book?
Everybody. Yeah, I think everybody likes to laugh, and this gives a lot of information that provides the meaning of why we laugh, and it also has a rather technical chapter or two on how to construct a joke, which may or may not be helpful.
I'm just curious. It's basically 3 or 4 parts. They're not really separate sections of the book. You've got the history of humor. You've got some of the criteria for judging humor or becoming
Right.
a connoisseur of humor.
Right.
You've got lots and lots of jokes incorporated.
which are used as examples of ideas that I'm presenting.
One or two almost on every page.
Yeah, right.
And then you've got the actual how to construct a joke. When you were putting the book together, which of those parts was the most pleasing, satisfying, enjoyable for you as the writer?
I think, well, I think the best way I can answer that is to tell you which chapters are my favorites. And two of the chapters are my favorites. One is the second chapter, says, being funny when you don't intend to be funny. And that's why I call it How to Be Funny on Purpose, you see, because a lot of people are funny and they didn't intend to be funny at all, and sometimes it creates great embarrassment for them. And then the other chapter that I like the best is the one which is, should I tell this joke? The question of whether it's a proper joke for that particular audience. I think that chapter I like very, very much.
See, I see in just our talking here, I see something coming over. You were, for many years, a professor of speech communication at the University of Michigan. You were a professor teaching students. If I were a student reading this book, what would be the most important takeaway or the most important thing I could learn from reading this book?
I think the most important are thinking about the criteria of funniness. That is, what is it that makes us laugh? And I think the book, does very well in explaining what those criteria are. And it also goes so far as to actually judge the worthiness, whether a joke is good, excellent, good, ordinary, or not good. So I actually take up the criteria in which you measure the effectiveness of a joke.
It's in a sense like a music appreciation course. You learn how to appreciate, or what is good music.
That's a very good way to describe it. Right.
So
it's two things. It also is for that small group among the readers who want to become professional comedians, and they have to. Now, one thing I hope I point out is that you have all of this information, but you also have to have a spark. You have to have a comedic spark to become a professional comedian. And I think the people who have become comedians, it was like Jay Leno and Johnny Carson, they had that spark. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to make it. But for most people, that isn't important. They want to tell a joke and make people laugh.
And this book would be perfect for them.
Right.
Because you really dissect
Right.
a joke and divide it into the parts and help us understand how do you now put together a joke.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be for a professional comedian. It can be for just everyday use with friends and neighbors and what family.
And to measure the effectiveness after you've done it. Yeah. Right.
If you were to write this book again, are there things that you did here that you would change in some way?
Well, I think some of the chapters, one or two of the chapters about constructing a boat, became somewhat mechanical, and I think they need rewriting. If I were to revise the book, that's the part of the book that I would look at the most. I think there are other parts that are very good. I don't want to touch them. If I touch them, they'll get worse.
So it would just be in those chapters and refining the process
Yeah.
to make it more specific or more direct or more easy?
And I think I need to do a good deal more thinking about what that process is.
Sure.
So that's what I would do.
And you've had some time to think about that in terms of
I'm
perspective.
not intending to revise it. But
Edgar's,
if I were.
Edgar is 99 years old, and he doesn't intend to have a second edition of this book. But the book, again, is called How to Be Funny on Purpose, Creating and Consuming Humor. And the book is available on Amazon.com. Thank you, Edgar.